So I am Rathika, the Member of Parliament for Scarborough, Rouge River, and as Todd mentioned in my introduction, I was born in this country. I was born on the island of Sri Lanka and was born in the middle of the war and faced some of what many others have gone through. One of the few memories I have of Sri Lanka is being shot at and then walking out and seeing a dead person on my front steps. I call it a soldier. It was somebody in a uniform, so I call them a soldier. I say a dead soldier on my front steps, but I don't know where they belonged. I was a 4-year-old, a dead person on my front steps. That's one of the 5 memories I have of my home country. So for me, human rights and the violations that took place and continue to take place on the island of Sri Lanka are important, are of grave importance, and are also very personal. So I think this is why many people can understand why I get very passionate about the topic of human rights and preserving justice, fighting for equality, and standing up for human rights around the world, and especially for those sisters and brothers who I've left back home. Working with Amnesty International, especially the Canadian chapter, working with Human Rights Voice, and using the documentary that Channel 4 made, we have made good headway in the community outside of the Tamil community, because for a long time, as Tamils, we were talking amongst each other, talking within each other, within our circles and amongst ourselves about what we all experienced as a collective and what we need to be doing moving forward. And I think finally we've broken out into what we call the mainstream, which is, outside of the Tamil community. And I think that is where we need to continue to do our work. So I thank CHRV and Amnesty and all of the other organizations that are doing the work in helping to get the message out outside of just within the Tamil community. Because these struggles that we know that continue to happen, and the alleged war crimes and crimes against humanities, I still have to call it alleged, that took place on the island of Sri Lanka, those are similar to the struggles that are taking place or continue to take place or took place many other places around the world. So we need to connect our struggles, because Tamils United in Canada, we're about 300,000 strong. But Canadians United in Canada, we're a huge force to be reckoned with. We're almost 9 million, if I remember the number correctly. That's 9 million Canadians strong, standing together to fight for human rights and to fight for the justice of people being taken advantage of and being taken for granted. And I'm going to say it, ethnically cleansed around the world. 10 million? 33 million? Oh, you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of the people that came out and voted in the past election. That's what I was thinking of. See, that's also something we need to work on, is engagement of people in this country. We need to work on the engagement of people in this country, because a lot of people are busy focusing on their bread and butter. They're busy focusing on finding work, putting food on their table, and can't get involved in human rights around the world and human rights violations happening here in our own backyard in Canada. So it's our job as aware Canadian citizens to take that initiative, spend that time to have those difficult conversations with our neighbors and our friends, so that they know what's happening, so that they become aware and they start becoming champions of us, champions of this issue. And so it's not just us being those champions. I want to talk about some of the work that we've done, and that they're only a start. And we have a lot more work to be done. I want to say thank you to Amnesty for working with Wayne Marston, the human rights critic, and myself in coming up with our petition that was presented a few months back. And my office and Wayne's office is steadily getting petitions coming in, but they're not coming in large droves. We're not getting, hundreds of thousands of petitions being dropped off in our offices. We're getting maybe 2 sheets every month. And with so many of us who care about the human rights situation, the violations that are happening on the island of Sri Lanka, why do we not have enough people signing these petitions? Because only when we as a community get out there and start talking to people and get them to sign the petition, can Wayne, can any member of parliament actually present it in the House of Commons and ensure that the government is actually doing something and ensure that the government understands the position of Canadians. Because if I have 1,000 people signing a petition as opposed to 500,000, I think it's a different message that we're sending. And I can actually celebrate some of our successes, is that recently our government has finally started to listen. So thank you to all of you who've helped with that. But I think electing a member of parliament who's of Tamil heritage helped in having a louder voice in the parliament and outside the parliament, so that the government now says, maybe we do need to start listening to these people, and we do need to start caring about what's happening on this island. We've seen a difference. We've seen a shift in their foreign affairs policies, and we've also seen a shift in their actual actions towards Sri Lanka. We know that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, when I asked him the question in the House of Commons during question period, he said with confidence that the Canadian government position was to not support Sri Lanka in the moving forward with the Commonwealth Summit. And then a couple days later, they stormed out and said they're not going to participate if it happens in Sri Lanka. That's great. Good showmanship. But still, they finally took a stance, which is good. It's a great first step. There's so much more that needs to be done, and that can only be done if this government knows that hundreds of thousands or millions of Canadians are on the side of human rights, are on the side of defending human rights and defending justice. And this government needs to know that that is the position of Canadians. Those are our Canadian values. But right now, what I'm seeing is that Canadian values are being rewritten, or we're told what our values are. And we as Canadians know what our values are, and those are fighting for equality, justice, social justice overall, and upholding the United Nations conventions. Of any of them, I can list a whole bunch, but there's no point. Our values are to fight for what's right, and that's not being done sufficiently. I brought a few copies of the petition here. I'm going to give them to, I have pens as well. And I'm thinking that this is a friendly crowd that might actually sign the petition. Please have a read, sign the petition, and go to my website, print a copy of it, print 10 copies, get it signed, mail it back to me. No need for a stamp. Put it in an envelope and mail it back to me. That's how we can take this to the next step. I'm thinking of practical solutions moving forward. And this is the first practical solution that we've been able to put together working with Amnesty. And if you have ideas, please voice them. We all know that Wayne Marston, our human rights critic, is always willing and open to talk. You all know how accessible I am. Facebook, Twitter, email, my YouTube channel through comments, writing to me, dropping by the office, whatever it may be. And you know it's a personal issue for me, as well as something that I've been fighting for all my life, just based on the fact that it's social justice and human rights. So I'm going to leave you with my call out, and that there's so much more work to be done. And we know that the panel of experts, the United Nations panel of experts, said that there are clear allegations, credible allegations of war crimes and human rights violations that took place on the island of Sri Lanka. And we know that the LLRC report doesn't really say much. And we expected that the LLRC report was going to be biased, but that was, of course, the United Nations experts who said that, not me. I lean to experts for their expert advice. And what we need to do, and recently I was speaking with the Australian Tamil Congress, and this is the exact same thing that I'm suggesting to them, is that we mobilize people and get to action, and rather than just sitting around. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be with you all day, but instead of sitting around and talking, we need to jump into action. So this is my action that I'm providing for you as part of my call out. And I want to thank Babu and Todd and the rest of the CHRV team for putting this on. Your awareness day is what I'm going to call it. Because having those conversations are important, and usually they're difficult conversations. So thank you for putting this on and giving me the opportunity to say my 2 cents, add my 2 cents to the dialogue. And I'm going to leave these petitions with you all to work on and get in touch whenever. Thank you very much.